Hey guys, today's game of the day is played between Alexander Grischuk and Evgeny Bareev. This game was played in the 2001 European Club Cup competition. Now at that time, Grischuk was one of the world's rising stars. Bareev, on the other hand, was one of the world's top players, and he has won strong tournaments such as Evgeny in 2002, so he's definitely not a player to mess with. In this game, Grischuk had white and Evgeny Bareev had black. Grischuk opens with e4, we have e6, the French defense from Bareev, d4, d5, and here many moves are possible for white. He can go knight to c3, he can go knight to d2, but here Grischuk chose e5, which is also quite commonly played. Bareev plays c5, trying to undermine white's pawn center, c3, knight to c6, putting more pressure on d4, knight to f3, here knight to h6 from black with the idea of coming into f5, a common idea in the French. This does allow a move like bishop takes h6, which would ruin black's pawn structure, but normally black is willing to allow this to happen. He does get a long-term compensation in the two bishops. Bishop to d3 from Grischuk, c takes d4, and here bishop takes h6. G takes h6, c takes d4, and bishop to d7. So bishop to d7 is quite a common idea in the French to prevent moves like bishop to b5 discoveries in the future. Because normally black would want to play moves like queen to b6 and pile up on the d4 pawn. Here knight to c3 from Grischuk developing, queen to b6, so looking at d4 and also b2. Bishop to b5 from Grischuk, so this is now defended, and also the bishop blocks the queen's attack on b2. Here black should be a little bit concerned about his king safety because of his damaged pawns on the king side, and also f7 is a little bit of a weakness in this position. So probably something like bishop to g7 followed by castles. And well, black is okay in this position because white is most likely going to castle kingside as well. So he doesn't need to worry too much about his king safety. But instead Bareev played rook to g8, which is a logical move, putting your rook on the open g file. Grischuk castles, and here Bareev should have played a6. So if the bishop drops back, then queen takes b2 becomes possible. So here white would have to play bishop takes c6, and after bishop takes c6, black has the two bishops, and good long-term potential. Well, the bishops aren't necessarily better than the knights in this position because the position is now close. You can see the center is locked down. But if he manages to survive all the way to the endgame, then black would have decent chances. But instead of a6, here Bareev goes for a very risky line, knight takes e5. So opening up a discovery on this bishop. So if bishop takes d7, simply knight takes d7 and all is well for black. But here Grischuk played knight takes e5. And after bishop takes b5, which attacks this rook, Grischuk plays queen to h5. So looking at f7, that is defended with rook to g7, and here Grischuk plays rook after e1. So the threat here is to play knight takes d5, and if black were to play a useless move like a6, after knight takes d5, e takes d5, here white has knight to c4 check, winning the queen. Here the best defense for black would probably be, to play bishop to e7 with the idea of king f8, king g8, and the king at least has found a safe space. And if white tries rook to e3 with the idea of rook to f3, putting pressure on f7, here after bishop to g5, rook to f3, black can simply castle queenside. And white is better in this position, but at least black is still surviving. Here you don't want to play castle's queenside. This would be extremely dangerous because after knight takes b5, queen takes b5, black is in a load of trouble after rook a to c1 check. After king to b8, you simply capture on f7, and this rook doesn't have good squares to go to. If rook to e8, simply queen to e5 check, and after king to a8, you can capture this pawn at e6, and if rook takes, simply rook to c8 checkmate. So here rook to b8 from black, white can play rook to c8, and well, not capture because queen takes c8 would be mate. So here a6, queen to e8, threatening rook takes b8. After queen takes e8, rook takes e8, rook takes c8, rook takes c8 check, king to a7, and at the end of this variation, white is up a piece. So here you can try rook to d7, but that fails as well. After queen to e5 check, king to a8, then rook to c8 is checkmate. Similarly, if you play here rook to c8, queen to e5 check, and after king moves, rook captures on c8. So castling queenside would be very dangerous for black. Here Bareev plays rook to d8, trying to stop knight takes d5. But unfortunately that loses the game as well. After knight takes b5, queen takes b5, this pawn is no longer protected by the queen on b6. And here Grischuk plays a knight captures on f7, removing the defender of the e6 pawn. And after rook takes f7, rook takes e6 check. In this position, Evgeny Bareev resigned the game. So what happens after bishop to e7? Here simply rook takes e7, and after king takes e7, you bring the other rook into the game, rook to e1 check. And if you move your king over to the d file, then this rook is unprotected. And obviously in this position, white would be better because the black king is just so exposed. So here you can come to d6 or f8. Well, you pick your poison. If king to f8, then queen takes h6, king to g8, queen to g5 check, so this rook is going to fall. And white is simply much better in this position. And here, if instead of king to f8, you play king to f6, after queen to h6 check, well, you simply get mated in a few moves. Here h3 is checkmate. So I hope you enjoyed this impressive attacking game from the 18-year-old Alexander Grischuk. If you do, please subscribe for more future content. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.